Hi, buddy. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and we're just going to do a real quick update on sort of what's going on the channel now, why some of these changes have happened over the last few months, and then kind of where I want to be moving forward with the channel. So first up, sorry for the decline in content. I have been streaming some, but obviously a lot less than I used to, and I know I haven't done any Total War content in probably a month or two at this point. And then I stopped doing the tier list, and I haven't done any other content, so I do apologize for that. I am going to try to step it up and start doing some more content. I probably can't go back to like 2018 levels of content, with basically pre-kid when Rory was just really small and not as much upkeep. So probably can't go back to that, streaming 6 hours and releasing 4 videos a day. But I'll see if I can at least get to, maybe 1 video a day or every other day and see if we can stream most days. Okay, so what's been going on with that, and then where does that kind of set me up moving into the future in terms of my availability and the kind of content that I'm going to do? Well, I've been really busy with a lot of offline stuff, and most of it's been really good. I know you guys really can't tell a lot just from the camera, but I have been eating a lot healthier, which means, having to go to the grocery store more, cooking more for myself. That all takes a bunch of time. Cooking, trying to get the kids, my wife to eat healthier too, so we're all been again just cooking for everybody, and I've been trying to clean a lot more around the house. The kids have gotten a bit older, so now they're both running around constantly, just toys, places, making messes, all that stuff. And my wife has gotten several promotions over the last couple of years, which is great. She's making a lot more money. She's also a lot busier, so I try to chip in by taking on more and more of the housework, where at this point I pretty much probably do 90% of the cleaning and maintenance of the house. So that takes a lot of time as well. And then I've also been, working out myself a ton. Usually 2 workouts a day plus cardio most days, with some occasional exceptions. We go out and have fun with friends and things like that. But also trying to get the family more involved, trying to help my wife get motivated to work out, trying to take the kids out to more parks and playgrounds and stuff, get them all motivated. So we've just been on this big health kick and kind of, just cleaning kick and stuff like that. And that's all been great. Part of that as well, which I had down here, is sort of the sleep aspect affected my stream time, because what I had been doing for years is, staying up, streaming until like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then I would go to sleep. And then sometimes, especially when Rory was younger, due to the classes and when I taught my classes and the fact that she was in daycare, which is really kind of drop them off whenever, I could drop her off at like 10:30 or 11, and if I didn't have class that day, like, that's no problem if I stay up till 2 or 3, because then I can just get 7 or 8 hours of sleep. But on the days when I did have class, and I started getting assigned classes much earlier as well, getting a lot of like 8 a.m. 9 a.m. classes, and now Rory's in elementary school, then I actually have to have her there on time. So we have to be there by really I have to leave the house by probably 7:25 or something. So then when I was trying to do that with streaming, that was that was taking like 5 or 6 hours of sleep. And then because I'm in class, because I'm doing all this other stuff, I can't sleep during the day. And I think that chopping up your sleep, I couldn't find any scientific evidence on this, but I feel like it's not as healthy as just getting a continuous 8 hours of sleep. It feels like it's a lot better, or a lot worse, to do like 4-4, which I've been doing something like that for kind of years. So yeah, and the kids want to stay up with me too. That was Rory and now Rowan. They both like to stay up with me, and I feel like it's just not good. They'll stay up for a while and they'll end up passing out, but they stay up later than they should. Versus if I go to bed earlier, then they'll go to bed earlier, and so it's really kind of better for their health and motivation too. So health stuff, and then we've also been trying to make a more concerted effort just to hang out with friends and go do some more exciting and interesting things sometimes. So we're out, more often on the weekends, hanging out with friends, going out to dinner, just doing all kinds of interesting. I was playing pickleball the other day. We're trying to get into like some frisbee golf. So just trying to be, just more socially active again. It's just fun. I miss, hanging out with people, doing a lot more physical stuff. And it's just really hard to do that when you're older. Everybody's busy. But, just trying to ask people and at least just check in, and good friends, trying to hang out with them at least like once a month or something. So I've been trying to make a more concerted effort to do that and not just disappear off the social grid And now that we're back in Tennessee, you know, I just got a much more extensive network of friends and family here than I did when I was in Ohio. Like, we had some friends in Ohio. Shout out to Jason and them. And, you know, there were some times where I'd go hang out with them, but, you know, I didn't feel like I was missing out on as much being online more when I was in Ohio because I just didn't have as many friends and family. So that's what's going on offline. It's been taking up a lot of time. It's been really good, I think, for me, for the kids, for just everybody. Other than, you know, creating content for the channel. So I still like the channel. I still love the games, but it's just trying to balance that stuff out. And then another thing that, you know, has happened really since, I guess, 2021 or so. There was that dramatic shift in viewership for a couple of years there, from like 2019 to 2021. We were getting probably 300 plus viewers concurrently. And then before that, really, even like 2017 into 2018, we were still pushing like 200, 250. But then we started getting over 300, and then routinely for probably 6 months there, over 500. We capped out at like 3,000 something one time. So I never quite figured out exactly what was going on there, but that felt really good. We had a lot of people, very active chat, and it was just like, all right, good. It feels like we're growing the channel. You know, I was getting for a while there 1,000 subs a month or whatever. YouTube subs, not Twitch subs. I wish I had 1,000 Twitch subs a month. The non-monetary kind. But it felt like we were growing, and that was inspiring. I was like, okay, I'm doing more content. I'm getting rewarded for it. We're getting growth. You know, I never did it for the money, but it's nice to have some affirmation just to say, you know, this is cool. People are liking this. It's worth my time to be doing these things, right? People are getting joy out of it. They're learning stuff. But then it just, you know, after that massive drop off, we went from like 500 to 50, you know, almost over the course of 1 month with no real explanation. And we never really recovered after that. And I never figured out what happened. I mean, some people said they just stopped getting recommended in the feed. Maybe someone was buying view bots for me for 2 years or something. I don't know. The chat was a lot busier, though, too, during that era. So I'm not sure what was happening. But that was definitely a little demotivating a few years ago. We never really recovered that. And then after, you know, having the second kid and both kids kind of growing up and requiring more time and all the stuff I just mentioned, it's like, okay, I can make a video that's going to get like 100 views and it's going to take me like 2 hours and I'm going to get like 10 cents off of it. Or I could, you know, go to a park with the kids, or I could get a little bit better sleep, or, you know, do these other things. So it became a tougher and tougher choice to justify, you know, doing the large amount of content that I did before with fewer payout, right? And like I said, I don't feel like it needs to be obviously like a lot of money, but it just, you know what, you guys know what I'm saying, right? It's just like, it feels like you got to make choices. You don't have an infinite amount of time, and some stuff, you know, just feels like it's going to be more useful than other things. And then because I wasn't making as much content, then the viewership went down even more, which obviously makes sense, right? So it just kind of creates this spiral where it's like less viewership, which is less motivation to do more content, which creates less viewership and less motivation to do content. But I'm trying to get back to kind of the mindset and just the love of just doing the content itself. And even if it's just 5 of you guys hanging out in the chat, I still love it. Shout out to Butter and Uranizak and, you know, all the other regulars that show up in the chat still, even though it's only 5 to 10 people every now and then. You know, it's still always great. But I'm going to try to, you know, be consistent with the content, and just, even if there's not as many people, it's still fun just to come in and hang out with you guys. And then just the content saturation. This has been going on for years, but there's so many people. I remember seeing, I tried to look up something for Total War, like some mechanic, I think a Kairos mechanic, some more on that in a second. But, dude, there were so many people that showed up to UDP. I've never heard of these people before. And I was all over the Total War content for years. Like, I was watching all kinds of other people, and I was even in on the Creative Assembly, like, creator platform or whatever, where I got early viewership, and I was on their Discord, and I could see all these people. It just exploded astronomically. There's so many content creators. I'm like, I've never heard of this dude. He's got 50,000 subscribers, right? So it's just kind of intimidating, where it's like, you know, I've been stagnant on the subscribers at, you know, 30K. It's dropped to probably like 29 or 28 point something these days. But, and then there's these other like young guns I've never heard of that are like 50K. And so it just feels like you're just so far behind. It'd be so hard to like get back into relevance where anyone would even find my video, where there's 100 people with 50K viewers now on Total War. Versus back in the day, I kind of understood. It's like, yes, I'm always going to be under Legend of Total War. Yes, there's a handful of content creators that were really big, and I could just kind of keep up and kind of figure out where I stood. And there was a little niche for me, right? It was like I didn't use cheese, and I played it on Legendary and just my style of commentary and stuff. But now there's just, a dozen different content creators for every niche. So that was kind of, and then obviously League is the same thing too. That happened a bit earlier where, my niche used to be, okay, I do support. There's not a lot of content creators for support. And I was doing kind of educational type of content, where I was trying to do guides. I was trying to, help explain, especially kind of mid-level players, how to progress, how to do things. And then all of a sudden you got Mobalytics and pro guides, and there's just endless guides, and the coaching sessions as well, offered the coaching sessions. But now it's like you can probably get a challenger, an 18-year-old challenger, to do a coaching session for you for $5 or something. I don't know. It's just the power creep on it was just crazy. So, it's just hard to feel relevant when you've got this like multi-million-dollar company that's doing all this education. There's probably even more that I don't even know about now. There's probably, 50 different companies that are doing all these, guides and coaching sessions and all of that and supports and everything. So it's just massively saturated for League and Total War, and probably every game, honestly, at this point. It's just really hard to make a niche. I think especially since COVID, everybody just started wanting to do online content, just about. And the quality of it has just gone through the roof too. Like just doing these little just single shot, no editing type of things just aren't going to cut it a lot anymore. I mean, some gameplay stuff can do that, but for these guides, standalone things, they got editors, they're paying to like add in all these graphics and all this crazy stuff. And that stuff is really expensive. Even probably when I looked into, what would it be like to get an editor when I was getting a lot of viewers, 4 or 5 years ago, it was like $40K a year, 45K. Like it's a real job you have to pay somebody for that's 8 hours a day to edit, a stream down even. Like there was somebody who was editing, I think it was I'm a Cutie Pie stream or something. I watched an interview with him, and it was an 8-hour job to edit down his 4-hour stream into like, a 20-minute thing. Maybe it was Double Lift. I can't remember which person it was. I feel like it was I'm a Cutie Pie though, back when he was doing it. But it was a lot. I was like, I had no idea it took that long just to edit stuff. Even something just that seems simple, like a stream. You're just clipping it down. You're adding in maybe a few sound effects or something interesting. It is a lot of work. So if you want to do that, that's either you're taking on a full-time job to do it yourself with editing, or you're having to pay somebody $40,000 or $50,000. And I added it up, and you would have to be averaging like millions of views just to pay for your editor on every video. But all these content creators that are, I don't know how they do it, that are like, 20, 30,000 subs are getting these highly edited videos. It's like they're either going into massive debt to try to grow. Someone who kind of, and I don't know anybody's financial situation, but someone like Nasty, which I don't even know if he's still around doing stuff anymore, but he was like a master support. I think he capped at Challenger at some point. And I remember when he was just growing at like, 10,000 subs or whatever, he would have like edited videos coming out. And I'm just like, dude, how is he affording this on like, 10 or 15,000 subs, right? And he was growing. I did a collaboration with him, and I was trying to do collabs and trying to find strategies to grow. But it's just like all these people I feel are just going in debt with these editors, or they're just spending, again, an extra 40 hours a week trying to go all in on the channels, and I just can't do that. I mean, I can barely spend, 10 hours a week, 15 hours a week these days on the stream, so it's a lot. But anyways, that's kind of been a problem. It's been a little demotivating. It feels difficult to keep up, but I'm going to try to come in and just do it just for the love of doing it, because I do enjoy it. I do, like I said, like hanging out with you guys, making the content, all that. So the stream time for now is 1 to 3 in the afternoon most days. I can't do it late night anymore, and it's hard to do it in like early evening because of all the kids stuff, but it's possible I could also do like 8:30 to like 10. Frankly, I like doing it with Jason. It's a lot more fun and social to do it that way, so that's why I try to do it in the afternoon when I could play with Jason, but occasionally play with Jason. But maybe I could do some more solo streams from 8:30 to 10, but we'll see. And then sometimes nights on the weekends. Occasionally Jason goes to the card shop. Occasionally we're hanging out with friends. But that is a possibility. All right, I mentioned the kids sleep thing. Over the summer, I might be able to do some more. I'm not sure what my sort of job situation is going to be over the summer, but I might be able to do some more content there. I am going to start releasing a Total War Kairos campaign. I've already got, I think, 8 episodes or so recorded. I always like to record 5 to 10 episodes before I start releasing, just to make sure I kind of understand what's happening and that I'm not going to just get deleted on turn 3 or whatever, right? Which doesn't happen all the time, but there are some, especially this Kislev and Kairos campaign, are really hard. One of like the first fights in Kairos, you've got like a 20 versus 32, and the first time I went over there, it was really hard. So some of these actually are pretty challenging. The Kislev one is also very hard, I think, early on without cheese. To just go straight ahead, be aggressive, and just take the first province is kind of tricky on Legendary. But I'll try to also get back to doing the support tier list every patch. You know, that doesn't take too long. It's about, you know, like an hour or so to kind of write that up, record it. I guess probably closer to 2 hours. But I'll see if I can, I've been saying it for years, see if we can get it to maybe 30 minutes or something on the support tier list. So I know that's one of the things that a lot of people really enjoy. And then I'll see if I can update some popular guides, at least Recon, because I do Recon all the time, and, you know, maybe some other ones as well. And then I'd like to eventually get back to some single-player playthroughs. I know I was very close to doing the Cyberpunk one again. I was doing all this research, and I was like, I'm going to do it. This is going to be fun. But then I was just like, man, I just don't have time. So I'm hoping over the summer I can maybe do that. And ideally, I would like to release, you know, maybe 1 episode of a single-player game per day, if I could, and an episode of Total War. But that requires 2 hours per day on average to do that, 14 hours a week. In addition to streaming. So I don't know if I'm going to have the time, but maybe, you know, sometimes on the weekends I could like stockpile some videos and try to do that. Another thing that's, and I'll kind of end on this, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's a lot of kind of volatility going on right now in education in general, with kind of the basic, you know, gutting of the Department of Education, which is affecting potentially a lot of student loans that could affect admissions quite a bit. There's a lot of skepticism about universities and kind of what they're doing, and a lot of people, frankly, universities are super expensive too, so, you know, I can get it from that angle. You know, a lot of people are looking at other, you know, more blue-collar jobs or certification types of jobs, whether it's tech or real estate or, you know, plumbing or whatever. So enrollments have gone down a little bit. Another thing, I teach mostly freshmen, like freshman English, and a lot more is like this dual enrollment stuff where people in high school will get credit for a community college dual enrollment or AP tests. It's getting increasingly competitive to get into at least the school that I'm in. There's floods of applications, which kind of runs counterintuitive to what I just said. So a lot of places are struggling. My university, fortunately, is doing very well with its admissions, and it's doing so well that it's getting more and more competitive people. So the student number is going up, but the amount of people in freshman English is going down because the students they're getting are very competitive and have AP credit or dual enrollment credit. So they're testing out of the classes that I teach, so they're dropping it down. Basically, I think it was somewhere on the order of potentially like 15 to 20% fewer students are projected to take these freshman level classes year over year. So that's really bad. And unfortunately, I'm one of the people that will get cut if that happens. So I don't know if that's going to be a permanent cut or what's going on. But, you know, and I'm not going to know until probably June or July what's happening there. So I've got to look for some more options to see what's happening. I mean, part of why I'm sort of in this expendable role is I never finished my PhD back in the day. I got all the way up to the dissertation, and then there's a bunch of life happened, and I was just kind of demotivated and just didn't finish it. So I've got to go back and start over on a PhD if I want. I got to get in first again as kind of an old man at this point in grad student terms. So I've got to go back and either try to get a PhD or maybe an MFA. I always wanted to be a fiction writer back in the day. That's initially, like, I was really into it in high school. I wrote a novel. In college, creative writing was what I did for my English part. I was English, philosophy, and religious studies, like a triple major. And I did creative writing. I actually won the creative writing award, the University Undergraduate Creative Writing Award at some point. But I just gave up on it after I graduated because I just wasn't good enough at that point to cut it, to get into a grad school for it. So I could revisit it and just see. And so maybe I can do some content where I just kind of talk about creative writing or my strategy or fiction writing or whatever. I don't know if there's an audience for that or not. But I think it would be a fun way to kind of hold me accountable, to just make it interesting, to do some videos that are relating with stuff I'm working on in real life. I think if nothing else, it would be fun to try. So that wouldn't replace any of the other content. I would still do that. It would just be an extra thing on the side for anyone that would be interested in something like that. So I don't know if that's happening or not, but that's a possibility. Another thing I could try is real estate. I do have a friend that's in real estate, so I've got a decent connection there, and it's not that hard to get certified compared to some other options. And I know the real estate market is not great right now, so I'd have to have a conversation with him and see what that's like. But I think I'd be pretty good at that. I think I'm a pretty good salesman. I enjoy real estate. I like thinking about houses, and I got a lot of knowledge about this area. I've lived here, most of my life. So I think I could be pretty good at real estate too. I just get the satisfaction from teaching. I just really love teaching students and just being a part of the college atmosphere. And, I wouldn't have that with real estate necessarily. I probably would make a lot more money, but I would enjoy it just for what it is. I'd still get to meet new people, and it'd be interesting. I don't know that it would be as fulfilling as teaching, but if the teaching's not there, maybe. Could also try to teach high school, but I'm not sure if that's really my vibe, because I don't know. There's just so much red tape, so much politics, and just everything that's just constantly threatening things in high school. So I don't know. But anyways, the bottom line is there might be some different kind of content coming if I decide to do the short story thing or some of these other things. And I might have some more time to do more content if I'm laid off working on this stuff. So we'll see. But anyways, that's it. I wanted this to be a quick video. Of course, it's not, as usual, but hopefully that gives you guys an update on things. So come by, check out the stream. I'd love to see you, even if you haven't tuned in a while. Like I said, we don't have a ton of viewership, 5-10 people most nights, but that means I will probably 100% see your message and get to talk to you, so you can get that nice, one-on-one treatment if you ever enjoyed having conversations with me. But anyways, that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for sticking with me. Those of you that are still around hanging out, I always appreciate it. And I'm going to get back to doing some more content that you enjoy, hopefully pretty soon. But that's it. Thanks. Have a good day. See you next time.